All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the very first replay cast of Season 19. Today, I am joined by my good friend and league admin, Terran Lord. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. It's exciting to cast CTL because it's the first time I've done it. And I think also in the realm of like casting gold and platinum players is something I don't do that often.
Yeah, it's exciting to cast our players, and it's going to be a good experience so that the whole team can watch each other play, see how we did as a team, and hopefully look forward to see how we can improve.
Yeah, very exciting.
Okay, so all right, looks like So our first series of the week was the 3,000 like 3.2k MMR and under slot. So this was replaced by the gold slot of last season. So it's a little bit more lenient. Players a little bit higher can join, seeing how hard it is to get gold. So this was a new slot, and the person we put in here was somebody actually recruited, BoRnGo, and he's going to be playing here. So a new member, but joined and done really good. So if you're ready, Terran Lord, I'm going to get right into the first game.
I'm ready.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So it's going to be Acid Plant, and BoRnGo is a Zerg, so it's going to be a PVZ. You have any thoughts about PVZ on Acid Plant?
I think, well, Acid Plant in general is pretty standard, but for Protoss players, I think it gets a lot harder once you get 4 bases and more, because you can be stretched quite thin by the Zerg player with run bys or whatever the Zerg wants to do, especially if creeps across the map. There's not that much that Protoss can do in terms of run bys.
Yep, that's definitely true. Pretty standard map. Bit of an older map as well. Alright, so the first player here for the league, for Sonic Aftermath, in the first slot is BoRnGo, the Red Zerg.
Bottom right, the orange Protoss representing BoRnGo, so he is Yahtzee.
Alright, so I'm going to have to pause to fix something real quick with this sound. Huh, okay. Doesn't seem like we're getting game sound. Okay. If you guys weren't getting game sound or something, I'm sorry about that. Okay, game's unpaused. We're underway. So, alright, sorry about that. Alright, so Yahtzee, as the Protoss player here, has a lot of options. Acid Plant's a pretty good map for Stargate play. Got a lot of room in the back to harass with Oracles, Phoenixes, and such. Or he could choose to play at standard, go for some Twilight Council and Robo play.
I think that's one thing that was changed. I mean, it's still been quite a while now that's been changed with the Overlord drops, that you can go for that Robo now as opposed to that Stargate, where when the Overlord drops, you have to go Oracles, otherwise you're at a very difficult time defending the Link drops.
Yeah, this was one of the maps kind of in the heyday of the Link drops where it was super scary. Not so much now, but still occasionally do see it. For Yahtzee, this is kind of a weird wall. He's got the... Well, I guess he might place something here, but it looks like it's going to be a couple different gaps. Unless this will be as one gap. Yeah, so it's going to be a 2-gap wall, so not the best, but should be able to get units out quick enough to deal with that. And something to note here, Yahtzee is supply blocked, so that's a pretty big deal. You know, this is putting his first unit way behind, and yeah, I mean, that was like a full supply block, so that's a huge advantage for BoRnGo right off the bat. Here, his first outup's going to be so slow. If BoRnGo pressured with a couple rounds of Lings, he would definitely be able to get something done. Of course, he saw that with the Overlord, but couldn't make the Lings quick enough to do that.
Yeah, I think it's always very risky when you go for those things, just in case you don't necessarily see everything, and there could be something else that just catches you off guard, and then you behind because you made so many Lings that wasn't drones.
Yeah, it's true. And getting at his third base, a little bit late, I think. I think around 250, something like that, is a more standard time for the third hatchery, depending on how optimal it is. Now, of course, he did see the Stargate, so he had to throw down some spores. That's why. So, nice reaction from Drujo, throwing down the spores with plenty of time to defend against any Stargate harass. Okay. Alright, so just adjusted the audio levels. People were saying that you were a bit quiet, so I just turned you up a bit. Cool. So meanwhile, some adepts got in here, and they're getting quite a few drone kills. How many lost already? Already 7 drones down, and the number is climbing. I think he's going to get about 10 drones for 3 adepts. That is pretty good trade.
I mean, it's pretty reflected in that work count. That Yahtzee's up like 8 workers, and like it's not too bad for the Zerg player. It's definitely not a position he wanted to be in at this point.
Yeah, it's true. Although he's a little bit scarce at home, doesn't have a ton, only a few zealots to defend. Now, he's throwing down a Robobay as well, and he's getting his oracles out. Now, the oracles, there's only one oracle, and there's going to be spores in all the bases as long as Drujo gets one up in the third. So the oracle might not do much at first, but the nice thing about oracles is that they retain a lot of value throughout the game, just in terms of scouting, and then later you get those stasises. So it looks like Yahtzee's Twilight Council tech choice is going to be, or Twilight choice is going to be charge. So we might see some, looks like an Immortal, so some Immortal charge. Pretty standard play from him. Now, Yahtzee got out a Phoenix first, which I really like this, because Yahtzee allows him to clear the Overlords in the map and get a ton of value, making the Oracles a little bit, can prevent scouting of the Oracles and also give him map control.
It's like the only kind of scouting that Zerg would have in the early game is Overlords, and once you remove them from the map, then the Zerg has to bank on that creep speed being good enough that they can spot attacks coming before they actually happen.
It's true, and also got a Templar Archives coming down behind this, so it's going to be that pretty scary Protoss force of Charge Lot, Immortal Archon coming down behind this. Drujo right now, he does have hasn't shown much of a tech choice as of yet, just droning up, getting up lings, and we'll see him pretty soon what his response to this is going to be, if he wants to get Hydras or Ravagers or what he wants to get. Now, the third's going up for Yahtzee. A bit late, but still, not the worst. Now, we got a Phoenix coming in here scouting. Sees only Lings. There are some Roaches out. Sorry, I missed those. And Hydrogen on the way as well. So, Yahtzee is wisely turning back. He cannot fight that force with only 2 Immortals.
Yeah, that's always one thing that you want to keep up, that Immortal count, just because as they grow bigger, the count grows bigger, the amount of DPS just gets insane. Like something like Roaches just becomes ineffective against a high Immortal count.
Yeah. Looks like I'm going to jump in here and get the Creep Queen. Nice for Yahtzee. Still only at 2 Immortals. This is quite risky for him. Drujo pouncing here. He might get on top of this force. The Lings getting on the charge lots, gunning them down, although it looks like the Lings will die pretty quickly. And Drujo, his third's under some attack right now. Okay, one of the Immortals goes down, but there's 2 Archons here. That's a really big force. He's got 18 Lings and 7 Roaches on the way. Once they pop, he's going to have to try to defend this. Roaches popping right into the fire of the Archons here. That was rough. And these Archons are so beefy against pure Roach.
And I mean, and the charge loss also just got so many drones that even if he loses this army, it's been an effective attack.
Yeah, although the one thing here is that Drujo might be able to push it for a counterattack on the third here, and it looks like he's going to save the third. This is huge. Keeping the hatchery alive is so critical. Oh, it's getting close, though. Okay. Gets down to 81 HP. Now he's going to go for a counterattack of sorts, which is smart, because Yahtzee, even though he killed quite a few drones there, and that was pretty cost-effective, that was a big extension from him. Ooh, now the Lings looks like they're getting shredded by these Archons. Jurjo expanding behind this as well. He's not losing pace with his macro. He's keeping his supply pretty well, and I like how Jurjo's reacting in this situation. So yeah, guys, do you hear game sound? Let me know if you guys hear game sound. I had some issues, had to get a new sound card, and still sorting all those issues out. So let me know if you some audio balance isn't quite right. But for Yahtzee, his army composition going for the Charge Lot Immortal Archon into Storm. So he's doing pretty good as well. His third was up, not really contested. I still one thing I would have liked from Jurjo with these Lings is just poke around at the third, you know. Acid Plant, you can dive in on the side. There's no defenses here, and at the very least, you're going to delay some mining for some Lings and most likely get a few probes at this level. So I would like to see him be a bit more active with his Lings in the game, not just kind of turtle up into that Roach Hydra ball.
Like, and even also, like, if he has eyes on the map and sees that move out, if those Lings are out across, you can always just send them as a counterattack, and then the Protoss player has to make the choice of, you know, does he go back to defend, or, you know, just go in and take the losses back at home.
Yeah, it's true. Now Jurjo has plenty of creep here. That's nice to see. He's got full vision of this army, and he's waiting on top of this ramp. It looks like Yahtzee's army is clumped up a bit. It's funneling in from different angles. This is a really bad attack from, but some great storms. And the storm lands, but it looks like snipes the third hatchery, so that's a big win for Yahtzee. But escapes with most of his drones, that's good, and can transfer them to the fourth as well, just like he is doing now. So that's pretty critical here. And Jurjo honestly can win this fight in a straight engagement. It looks like he's pursuing, picking off some units here and there, and Yahtzee's army is starting to get whittled down pretty far.
I mean, he's also losing very important tech units. Like, it's not just the Zealots at this point, and it's Archons, Immortals, and Sentries, which cost a lot of gas. And as a Protoss player, you never want to be losing a lot of gas just because of how gas intensive the units are. But these DTs are due to pretty well, because the Overseer does go down, so he does have to pull back with this, and he actually does save himself for now. But once there's more Overseers, then those DTs will have to be morphed into Archons.
Yeah, so Jurjo lost his Overseer there, so that fight was over. If that Overseer didn't go down, he probably would have been able to press in and get a few more unit snipes of those, like you pointed out earlier, costly gas units. Now, Jurjo, okay, now I still would like him to see, you know, watching this game, just something to note, try to be a little bit more active with counterattacks. As Zerg, you're super mobile, and even sending a small group of Lings out to try to counterattack the third, get some mineral line, make the Protoss concerned about more things than just moving it, getting up to its death ball stage, distract him a bit, give you some time, keep the ball in your court for Jurjo. So that's just a small note that I'm sure he'll continue to get better on. But I really like, he's kept his minerals low, he's macroing really well, and he's got a comfortable 50 army supply lead coming into this engagement here. Okay, now the Ravagers. There's so many Ravagers here, and if they get a really good set of Biles, this could go really poorly for Yahtzee. Yeah, Yahtzee is on the run here. There's not much he can do with this engagement. Now he's getting some more Templars. The Storms are pretty much the only thing he has. And some great Storms.
I think that there might just be too much from the Zerg, just because like with the Roach Hodge does stay alive, and with only a +1 and very like only 4 immortals and no buffer for them, there's no real way that Yahtzee can fight into the Zerg.
Yeah, and Snipes the third. And Yahtzee, he's banking a ton of minerals. He should have had his fourth yesterday. And he's going to lose all these probes as well. Has not spent his minerals very wisely, and looks like Drujo is charging forward here. The shield batteries are depleted now. There's not much he can do, except maybe land another good storm, but even that won't do it. All the probes getting massacred, returning. Few escape, but continuing to long-distance mine.
Yeah, he's losing so much now. Now, like because Drujo is just across the map, he can basically do what he wants. But he can probably expand behind this, and then he'd be fine just by how much damage he's done.
Yeah, and even at this point, keeping his minerals really low. Really happy with how this game went for Drujo. Oh, looks like there is no game sound. I'm sorry about that. I'll try to fix that later. I'm not really sure why, but anyways. Yeah, so this is... Yahtzee is going to die. It's just a question of when. And it looks like this maxed out force, almost maxed out, close, from Drujo should be able to power in here.
Yeah, I do like what Drujo does. Like he's not pushing like directly in. He's waiting for the Protoss player to come attack him, and where he wants to fight, that's where he's going to fight. Not where the Protoss has the best attack angles possible.
Yeah, that's true. I really, that's crucial. I think in the Protoss Zerg matchup, in the way, even like with recall, it's important to realize when you have to fight and when you don't. A lot of times, if you do some economic damage, you don't need to push in and fight. So Drujo realizing that here and being patient and getting the kill convincingly. Okay, so that was a bright spot for us this week. A nice glimmer of hope. Although I know that the rest, I won't spoil anything. I think everybody here watching knows what happens, but don't want to, in case people are watching who don't know what happened. But the rest of the week does not go great for us. So, oops. Okay. Alright, so then set number 2 is going to be Darth Julius versus Ariok. Ariok, been a long-term player for us. He's a good Zerg. Played in the last CTL season for us, if I recall correctly. Oh, sorry. I think my mic was probably way too loud there. Guys, sorry about that. Looks like I was peaking that entire first game. But anyways, set number 2 of the BoRnGo versus PsiX match. In the bottom corner of Lost and Found Ladder Edition, it's the orange Protoss Darth Julius.
And in the top right, in the red, representing Psionic Aftermath, he is Ariok.
So we have yet another PVZ, and going to be interesting. I think a lot of Protoss players on BoRnGo. This week we're playing SC Swarm. We're going to be up against a lot of Zerg players. We're a pretty Zerg-heavy roster, so that's going to be frustrating for some of our guys playing ZVZs.
Yeah, but at least there's a lot of practice partners. It's like is it the Terrans? Like, there's not a lot of practice partners for Terrans, but like besides for myself, Landfair, Goon, and a couple others, we're very stretched in that area. So sometimes those PVT, ZVT, or TVT matchups don't get as much practice as others.
Yeah, I mean, Terran. I think it's the one of the. I think it isn't it statistically the weakest race, as in forms of performance.
Yeah, I think so, because I think especially in a lot of the pro tournaments, you don't see Terran as much. I think you see like the select few, like Maru, innovation guys like that, but not really like the lower tier struggle a lot. And I think it's mostly down to the fact that Terran is probably one of the hardest races to master. It's very easy to grasp, but like, because it's so like macro intensive and everything, it's very difficult to reach a very high level with it.
Yeah, definitely. Seems to be the case. Now, we got a pretty standard opening for Darth Julius getting his wall up at the natural, and everything is pretty standard, getting his adept out. And like we said before, pretty much the big changes we'll see in terms of what the player wants to go through next, whether he wants to go for a fast robo, Twilight Council, or Stargate. So we'll be seeing that come up pretty soon. And there it is, a Twilight Council. This is honestly, it's just a matter of preference. And been seeing a lot of players go for Charge. Charge is pretty popular. We don't see Glaives as much, and Blink is kind of as far as the first upgrade that's chosen,
Yeah.
Blink is kind of it was an older style, and Heart of the Swarm, more that era, was a lot more popular.
Yeah, I think most of the time in PvZ when you're getting Blink, it's more as like, oh, I don't have the exact answer to Broodlords at this point, but I might as well get those Blink Stalkers just because they like the option before those Tempests and Carriers come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Blink Stalkers are underutilized in general. They're really good for just sniping Overlords, even if you have a couple of them. Give you a lot of map presence. Some people fill that with the role of a Phoenix or an Oracle, so it makes sense why those are skipped a little bit. But it looks like we have here Overlord Speed. Or is that Speed or Drop? I'm sorry, I can't see that. Looks like Speed. Okay, so it looks like... Yeah, Overlord Speed... Go ahead, it's fine.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that I'm a big fan of Overlord Speed just because you can see exactly what your opponent is doing. Like, even if they have a Phoenix or Void Ray out, you're probably going to see what the Protoss is doing before they deny that scouting.
Yeah, it's true. It makes you not lose as many Overlords to things like, a couple Stalkers out in the map. That's really nice and gives you a lot more. Ooh, and it looks like Ariok scouting that War Prism coming out. That's a big win for him. And we see spores being thrown down. So it looks like Darth Julius is going for a Archon drop. Looks like he's warping in some DTs, and this will get scouted by that Speed Overlord. So that's really nice for him. Going up into the main, and Ariok has had vision of this for so long. He's got some roaches in the main. There's no spore in the main, though. Okay. That's weird. He chose to get him in all the other spots except the main. That's rough. Now he's tanking with the roaches, which is interesting, and I think he's gonna try to transfuse.
Yeah, but we actually didn't need to lift those DTs. Still could have got damage done. I think he's just a little scared of like any overseers showing up, and then that would really, then he'd probably lose the DTs and the War Prism.
Yeah, I mean that was not a successful DT attack at all. There was zero damage done from that. Now he's going to lose this War Prism, and for pretty much, oh no, actually he's going to escape away with. That's a huge save for him.
Yeah, especially keeping the Archon alive as well, because like this early on, it's quite a big investment, and losing a single Archon is, I'm not gonna say devastating, but it hurts the Protoss a lot.
Yeah, so it looks like Darth Julius going into that charge Immortal Archon style again, and throwing down his third. Now, Lost and Found, the third is relatively easy to hold. You know, got that. It's a smaller choke, so if you get a couple cannons and some structures up, it's easier to hold than some other maps.
I think later on it gets harder to hold because a lot of Zergs opt for that lurker style, and then because it's such a small choke point, you don't really want to fight into lurkers on a small choke point. You'd rather fight like more in open areas, which towards the natural or the fourth base location. But still, like it definitely is a better choice for an earlier game.
Just a question from Dreves. This is normal game speed. Didn't do anything to it. Looks good to me. Not totally sure what he means by that. Seems to be normal speed to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Later on, it is easier to hold. But I guess for the meantime, the earlier game, it's a little bit more straightforward. You throw down two structures and then you got a wall, and it gives you a lot of time. Now, it looks like the Lings are going to start to pick away, and he's going for some sort of a bust. And the Archon here getting so much damage, and the Immortals are here. Doesn't want to overextend. Now, most of the Banes have exploded. There's a couple coming in here. They don't get great connections, but with a couple of Immortals here and a Storm, just for good measure, Darth Julius is going to have no trouble cleaning it up. Now, I don't really like that attack from Ariok. I don't think it was necessary at all. And attacking into a really tight funnel like that is never a good idea as a Zerg.
Yeah, and especially the fact that he was taking up as well to Hydras. It's a lot of investment into Hydras because you have to get the Hydras, both Hydra upgrades, plus also missile attacks, and he didn't have nearly enough army because of that.
Yeah, it's true. Now, this is an overextension from Darth Julius. He lost I think an Archon or something. I missed it. Almost going to lose an Archon. Oh, good storms, though, on top of Ariok. And now, Ariok, meanwhile, just the other way, funneling units in here, not being really wise with his units, and this Warpin might seal the deal. Yeah, there's just one spine here at the third, but it's not going to be enough to hold on, most likely. It looks like Darth Julius is going to wait for a Warpin, wait for some Archons to morph before he goes in. And Ariok here is diving forward. This is really unnecessary. He's trying to get the War Prism, but honestly, it's not that important to lose the last remaining armor you have to get one War Prism.
Yeah, it's just the promise is really so much there that even losing that War Prism isn't that big of a deal, and he even has another one coming back and another one away. So he clearly knows that if he loses the War Prism, it's fine. He's going to have another one because he's got it in production.
Yeah, and I mean, what I think Ariok should have done here is he seemed to panic or think that the third being up was a huge problem, and it really wasn't because the probe count wasn't super high. You know, he could have scouted with an Overlord, and I would have liked to see him just defend, get a fourth of his own if he sees a third, instead of overreacting and charging his army in here, taking some really bad fights, and this will ultimately cost him the game. The Immortal count is high, the Storm is up, and this is going to be a win for Darth. So the third is going to go down here. And well played from Darth Julius.
Yeah, and I also do like this move that he lifts up the Archon's head with the Warp Prism and warps in charge. It now it forces already light Arok to split his units, and he just can't do that with how little units he has.
Yeah, it's true. So Darth Julius dropping some units in the main, gonna get on top of the last few spawns of units, and GG is called, and BoRnGo is gonna tie it up 1-1. Looks like TB Ham asking the aspect ratio is kind of weird. Yeah, it is a little bit weird because I have a weird monitor, so if it would either have some small black bars on the side or be a little bit weird aspect ratio. And I went with the slightly weird aspect ratio. So in my opinion, it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now we have game sound. That's what that was. Okay, cool. All right, so set number 3 of the PsiX versus BoRnGo series. It is going to be Warbuff versus Raj. Yet another PvZ.
Definitely a populated matchup, it seems. And this time it's going to be the other way around, where the PsiX player will be the Protoss.
Yeah, finally we'll get to see a Protoss PsiX player. All right, in the bottom here of Dreamcatcher, the green Zerg, it's Raj for BoRnGo.
In the top left, in the blue, representing PsiX Aftermath, he is Warbuff.
So what are your thoughts about Dreamcatcher? A bit of a newer map, but we've seen some action of it.
I'm not the biggest fan of the map. I have it vetoed personally, but I think it's not as bad as, say, like a Redshift or a Darkness Sanctuary. It is a lot more standard, but at the same time, because like it's quite a direct path towards the natural bases, it can create like quite weird games, especially in the early game. Whereas like in the later stage of the game, expanding outwards past 4 bases becomes very difficult. Then it kind of creates that sense of lull where it's like you're trying to get those 5 bases, and if you can't, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble because your opponent can take their 5 bases because they're putting pressure on your side of the map.
Yeah, and this is one of the things about Dreamcatcher. The third is really hard to defend. It's so open, whether you take the far one or the one right in front of your main. You've got 2 attack paths coming into it. It's really rough to hold. And then even, like you said, in the later game, it's tough to get that high base count. So I think in that sense, it does encourage some slightly more all-in play because it's really good for aggressive play, attacking into, when both players are on 3 bases. Because there's not much of the players can utilize as far as terrain, like in the last map we saw, Lost and Found, that they can use. So, will we see a Stargate or a Twilight Council or Robo from Warbuff? Not sure.
Knowing his playstyle, I'm expecting the Stargate because it's something that he plays in every matchup. I see like PvZ, PvT, and PvP. Because I myself practice with him in all three, so I'd be very surprised if he goes for any other tech.
Yep, there's the Stargate. Now, the Oracles can be really good if they go unscouted. I expect the Overlord will make his way into the main soon. But if he waits too much longer, then he's in danger of not scouting the Oracle before it comes out. And then he could be in some trouble. He doesn't have...
He is making a lot of links, though, and he's walking around the map, so Warbuff hasn't scouted this, and if he's not ready for this, even though it's only links at this stage, he could just straight up die to it.
Yeah, that's true. Raj is hiding them. Well, not hiding them. Move them to the other side of the map so it's not in the direct path, which is smart. And there's no shield batteries up, and I think you're right. He's just going to get overwhelmed here.
Yeah, he needs to start getting a really strong wall. It's not... Because like with this many links that are going to come across the map, he needs... And how awkward this map is, walling off fully is kind of awkward after you get those first few buildings.
Yeah, and he went for a Phoenix first, which is really rough in this situation because he needed an Oracle right now to clean that up. Would have liked to see him cancel the Phoenix, get an Oracle once he saw the Lings. Unfortunately, the Phoenix finished, and now the Oracle is going to be really late, and I don't see... It doesn't look like there's a ton that Warbuff can do to defend this.
Yeah, and now that the Lings are in, it's going to get a full surround on the depth where the shield battery's not finished in time, and he's probably just going to lose all his probes now. And behind this, Raj can easily drone up if he wants to.
Lings are on the main. They're going to start sacking the probe line, and the Oracle coming in. Now it's really late. If there was an Oracle was a bit later, he might have had some hope. But even then, Oracle only has so much mana.
Yeah, I think it's out of energy now, and he could just go into the main base and kill the rest of the probes. And yeah, there's the GG coming from Warbuff.
So I think if in that game, if Warbuff, the main problem was just not scouting, that's pretty much why.
Yeah, I think also that you touched on going for the Phoenix before the Oracle. Just he didn't have that damage output in the beginning to stop those Lings breaking down his wall.
Yeah, and no shield battery as well is a bit greedy. If you're not scouting, I'd say you usually want to get 1 or 2 shield batteries blind if you're not going to scout, or you're going to scout later. Okay, so our next match is going to be our second Diamond 2/3 match. Or actually, sorry, our first Diamond 2/3 match, which is going to be Xenodactyl versus Caesar from BoRnGo.
I'm expecting cannons this game.
What makes you think that?
I wonder. I may have a feeling into how Xena likes to play. I mean, then again, it is 16-bit and it's against the Terran, so it's probably less likely than normal.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say on the pool of the more standard maps, there's not really any maps that you can't cannon on. There's definitely some where it's not as good. Yeah. So, for our Protoss player here in the top corner of 16-bit, it's Xenodactyl, the teal or light blue Protoss.
In the bottom left, in the purple, playing Terran, representing BoRnGo, he is Caesar.
Now, we've seen, I think, in the PvT matchup, so I don't know a ton about Caesar's playstyle, whether he's a straight-up mech player or he likes to use some bio. But we've seen, I guess, at least I've seen, a lot of Terrans using a bit more mech, Hellion play in the PvT than they used to, moving away from just the pure bio play. Definitely mixing in more mech than normal.
Yeah, I think if there's one map to do it on, it is 16-bit, just because you have access to 3 bases pretty easily, and even from there, that fourth base is not too far away that you can defend all your bases, and even with that fourth base, you have coverage of any kind of drops coming into the pocket base.
Exactly, and so we got a full scout, and there's no cannons this time.
It's either he's going Sour Core first before the Nexus. And I think he's looking to go for the Zealot Stalker, which I'm not the biggest fan of on this map, just because if there's the CC in the pocket expand, you can just wall off in the front, and you'd be fine with the Zealot. Just can't get it. But because Caesar's taking the third as his natural, this could do well for Xeno.
Yeah, so Xeno's um, own natural expansion is going to be delayed a bit because of the Cybercore first, but he is going for actually an Adept. Maybe Adept Stalker, we'll see. Oh, but looks like we have a Proxy Stargate. Interesting. Reaper coming in here, but there is an Adept to catch it right away.
Yeah, with the Stargate positioning, I'm not the biggest fan of, just because I think it's still quite far away from the Terran space. Like, even though it's unexpected for the Terran to scout there, if you more put it towards like the closer of the natural, then it's a lot better. Or even towards like where the expansion is at the moment. And I think Caesar's looking for something. He's scouting around with the Reaper on the edge of the map, and that is good play for him. He's recognized that a proxy is likely, because I don't know if he's seen the natural base yet.
Yeah, just by checking the number of pylons, he's definitely got to be suspicious. And the Stalker coming out for Xeno. And we've got a 2 Cyclone push coming out for Caesar. So, going for that Cyclone mech push out is definitely something that Xeno has to be aware of. I'd like to see him shade in here to scout, especially because he's putting himself a little bit at risk by going for the Proxy Stargate. But it looks like the Cyclones are going to pop before that happens. And the Adept, crucially, will be here to see that. So now Xeno can react, get some shield batteries up ASAP, get some Stalker production now. And the Oracle's coming in here, and how much the Oracle does is going to be crucial to how Xeno defends.
Yeah, especially with these 2 Cyclones pushing out, and the Temurians as well. There's no anti-air to deal with that Oracle, so if Xeno does macros well enough, he can get up to 10 to 12 SCVs, which if as long as he doesn't take too much damage at home, he should be fine.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that though. Xeno really slow on getting the shield batteries. I don't even think they're going to finish in time.
Yeah, and also with those 2 Hellions following up, that probes can just be roasted so quickly that even if the Cyclones can keep the rest of the Protoss army busy, the Hellions will just do so much.
Yeah, I think this was a miss. I think Xeno's a bit underprepared for this. Needed to get the shield batteries and a couple of Stalkers out much quicker, chrono boosting on the gateways. Now we see the Oracle did get quite a few kills, but that really doesn't matter at this point because the main is probably going to go down, although it looks like Caesar not microing his Cyclones going to lose them to probes.
Yeah, and one Stalker does come out, and I mean, he did do a lot of damage across the map, so he's got room to breathe, but he just has very little units still to defend, and he's probably going to lose even more probes. That the Terran back at home will be able to equalize and probably pull ahead.
Yeah, the Oracle needs to get in here. He's just sitting idle, needs to defend that, and looks like he's going to get 1 Stalker warped.
I mean, he does get rid of the Cyclones, that's a lot of the DPS, but another Cyclone shows up. He needs to get rid of that almost as soon as possible. He loses the Stalker, and still the Oracle sits idle by, while the rest of the army just destroys everything.
Yeah, this is rough. I think Xeno had enough time to prepare, but threw down like a Twilight and a Forge, I think when he needed a couple shield batteries, and started chronoing out the Stalkers. But as it stood, he took way too much damage from that and did a really good Oracle harass, but it's too little too late. And looks like we will see Caesar take this game, and BoRnGo to go up 3-1. Looks like the probe's going to try to get one last attack in, hugging that Cyclone. Unfortunately, it's too much. Xenodac to Wolfall.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough game for him. It's just every decision he made just didn't go his way, and Terran just took it from there.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to move into... Oh, wait a second. I'm missing a game. Okay, I'm going to have to... I need Baxter's game, but I don't have it. Let's see. Okay, so just 1 second. I'm going to try to get his replay. He is the next Diamond 2 player for us. Baxter joining the EU team. Doing a great job there. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right, we should be good now. I got his replay.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. Finally. Looks like we got some people tuning in here. Hope everyone's been having a great day. Great first week of summer for some people, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so Dreves' game against Spoonmaster. We're going to have yet another PvZ. Round 3.
One time where I was like, "Oh, this is Terran." It's just, no, the game's too quick. Like, this game should go on for a while because it's stuck in the Sanctuary, and probably one of the biggest maps I've seen for a while. And what makes it very interesting, like unlike other 4-player maps, is expanding to 5 bases is a lot harder, especially if it's not something like cross spawns.
Yeah, I say personally, I'm a huge fan of 4-player maps. You know, coming from Brood War, I was kind of disappointed at how many 2-player maps there were in Legacy of the Void, different, even Heart of the Swarm. I really like the dynamic of the 4-player map. Can get some longer games, some more interesting games, and it's a different meta. So I'm actually a big fan of this map because of that reason. But for our 4th set, or actually our 5th set, sorry, we've got the green Protoss in the top position of Darkness Sanctuary, Spoonmaster for BoRnGo.
In the bottom right, in the teal, all the way from Romania, representing Sonic Aftermath, he is Baxter.
That's right, Baxter, Romania. avid airsoft player I saw. That's pretty cool. I've also always enjoyed paintball, but never quite got into airsoft. Bit more refined than paintball. Paintball, you're pretty much just lobbing things at people. All right, so Darkness Sanctuary has a bit of a wider ramp, so the wall is not so straightforward as some other maps, but kind of made up for in the fact that it is a 4-player map, so the scouting does take longer and is not guaranteed, so it gives you time to defend against that earlier pressure. And
let's see, because of its cross spawn, that Baxter's only gonna find that now, and like trying to go for a link flight is quite risky, just because those links are going to take the extra 15 seconds to get across the map.
that's exactly, yeah, it's true. 4-player maps, depending on the spawn, you can really have quite different games. That's quite interesting. Dynamic of those maps is that it's really dictated by, the where the spawns are can mean different things for different races. Now we have a really early third from Baxter. What do you think of this?
I'm a big fan of it, just because of the map and how that if Protoss wants to pressure this, it's going to take them a lot of resources into it, and probably by that time Zerg will have enough just to defend.
Yeah, that's a bit. I mean, that's I think one of the most like optimal Zerg timings for thirds, like 245. He went for that a good 15 seconds earlier than that, and that's yeah, like you said, that's really cool. I'm realizing that because it says cross spawns, you can get away with that, and can get a nice advantage from that. Now it looks like Spoonmaster went for a looks like a Oracle first. Now Baxter will not scout this for a while, it looks like, so he's got to be careful that he doesn't lose too much here from this, and he's got an Adept coming in here. Might get a drone. It's going to get a drone, but it's going to lose the Adept. Not a trade that is a trade that Zerg will take for sure.
Yeah, now he's got to be very careful with that Oracle. I think he needs to put those spore colors up now if he wants to defend it. Because like, obviously Queens can do pretty well. It's not enough DPS just to push away that Oracle. With that spore color, Protoss players are very scared to lose that Oracle.
That was interesting. Looks like Baxter got that spore down before the Oracle even came in, or actually it came into the third. But so he won't take too much more damage than other than what's at the third. There's spores up in the main and nat, so damage control for Baxter so far. I like it. Losing 3 drones, not the end of the world, and actually only 2 drones went down, so good defense from him.
Okay. And now he's starting to power up on those 3 bases. He's got his gases and he's going towards the lane. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see Evo Chambers and maybe a Baneling Nest coming on the way, depending on if he wants to play either the Roach Hydra or the Hydrolink Bane style.
Yeah, definitely. And Spoonmaster went for a Phoenix as well. So scouting the map with the Phoenix here, and then going to come in with 2 Oracles. It's going to be interesting. Sometimes with 2 Oracles, you can dive on a spore defended base, get a few drone kills, and pull out with only shield damage. We'll see if he tries to go for that. But meanwhile, the Phoenix locking onto, going to find some Overlords around the map. That's good for him. I'm going to probably supply block Baxter here if he's not careful. A lot of Lings being built here for Baxter. Now this is something, yeah, looks like Baxter was food capped by that. Now a lot of Lings coming out from Baxter, and this third from Spoonmaster is aggressive. I mean, it's actually not that aggressive in the time considering the Zerg went 3 base, but it's so hard to defend on this map, on Darkness Sanctuary. There's so many paths, and I fully expect this to get shut down pretty heavily.
Yeah. I mean, the one Oracle does spot the links across the map so he knows what's coming. And he does have the revelation. He's got a third oracle back at home, so he should have more than enough. And I think because of that revelation, Bax is just a little second guessing himself on whether he should go for the attack or not.
Yeah, he's hesitating, and I think he definitely could have gotten away with something here. He's going to lose another Overlord. That is unfortunate. I think definitely like all of our Zergs can maybe learn to be a tad. I'm not saying every single one of them, but a common trend is, you know, when you have a group of Lings out on the map, being aggressive with them when you can is quite important. If you, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that even that little distraction that, because the macro cycle is so important to I think any race, that if you put them off that macro cycle, then you could just get a little bit of the lead and take the game from there.
Yeah, some of the best Zergs I've watched have just done that with Lings. You just like 8 Lings, you can wreck their macro cycle. You can supply block them, and even get a probe or two, and that is so worth it. And if you keep doing that, suddenly you'll have a 30 supply lead and you'll crush them. So just something to note. Now, in this attack though, looks like Spoonmaster has some oracles, so he should be okay here.
But I mean, it's still a lot
yes,
of hydro
true.
ling though, and like if he gets caught out like this, like with the immortals, and then the oracles haven't been able to do too much just yet. He does have the shield batteries to fall back to, so that there is a lot, but he is fighting quite far away, and he's losing most of his immortals and all the oracles. And now, like with the rest of the links following up, I think he may be able just to crush the Boros here.
Yeah, it looks like that. The shield battery was all absorbed here, and the oracles went AFK for a bit, so they weren't getting the Lings done, and he was a bit over aggressive there. So I think Baxter will be able to take this, because Spoonmaster being a little bit too aggressive there with his units, not watching them. And Hydra's...
And now, the War Prism, like that was probably the only chance he had if he kept that alive, just because of the micro potential has. But losing the War Prism and an Immortal, just it really stings.
Yeah, we see Baxter here taking that early third means he has so much macro potential here in this mid game because of the, you know, how much he's mining so much here for this time of the game, and just going to overpower Protoss in a time when they don't have a ton of defensive structures up, don't have Storm, and doesn't have too many Immortals out yet. So really well played from Baxter. Loving this, reading the map well, and macroing really well.
Thanks for the victory.
Nicely done. So we've got 2 bright spots in our week. And congratulations to you, Baxter. Thanks for playing. Also, just want to say again, everybody watching who played, thanks everybody who played. Really appreciate the support and effort I know all you guys put into it. And also, huge shout out to all the people who put in a ton of work for this, helping me out and doing stuff. It's really cool. And when, as a team, we come together for the CTL, I always have a ton of fun and really enjoy it. So, yeah, big shout out to Sippy Cup, Sal, all those guys. Awesome. So, our number, having trouble speaking, set number 6 is going to be Snap XD for our D1 slot.
I think he's a really solid Zerg, I'd say. I've seen a lot of him recently, and he does really well, you know, in defending cheese as well as cheesing himself, and even in that macro game, he seems really strong.
Yeah, and so, yeah, like you said, I totally agree. Snap is a really solid player. He knows his stuff, trains hard, practices hard. I think sometimes he, well, you know, I'll save that till we watch the game. But seen him fall a few times to some mental games, but overall, like you said, solid player, and gonna be an interesting ZVZ for him. All right, in the top corner here of Catalyst, the purple Zerg, it's BoRnGo's Love Quaterno.
And in the bottom right, in the blue, representing Sonic Aftermath, he is Snap XD.
So ZVZ on Catalyst, we're done with the weird 4-player map. We're back to a more standard one now. So what will we see from these players? From what I've seen, Snap, I think he is a player who likes to play a bit more reactive, likes to sniff out the cheeses when they happen, and then react to defend really strongly to that. So he just went for a 17 hatch there, 16 hatch, and is going to wait for make Quaterno make the first move if he's going to be super aggressive and just defend really well with good micro. Okay, so both players going for that 17 hatch style. Love Quaterno's was delayed by a few seconds, not a huge deal, and their pull timings are pretty similar. So pretty much mirror builds for both players.
Yeah, I think like the only real deviation in ZVZ is like, is there like massive aggression coming from one of the Zergs or both of them? Up until like if there's not like both go the hatch first, then you're probably looking more to like the third, fourth minute where there's deviation in the tech where if one player wants to try to stay in the link bane stage or the other just goes for the roach warren.
Yeah, it's true. One of the interesting things about ZVZ is, compared with other matchups, is most of the time, the buildings well, the overlords usually can get a scout in at first so they can see what they're doing before the queens pop. But in this case, the queens will be out and Snap will not get a scout. But they usually have overlords in the attack path, so they usually can see what's coming a bit faster than in some other matchups. But ZVZ scales so fast that if you're behind a couple lane productions, or you build a few too many drones, you can lose the game just like that. So it's a very balanced on a knife's edge, and it's a very micro-intensive game. You got to know your builds. So both players going for the Bane Nest about the same time. Now Snap is building 2 spine crawlers.
I think he's expecting like some kind of aggression to come out, but at this stage hasn't been any extra links besides the first 6 minutes. So I think Snap might have seen in his preparation that Love Quaterno likes to do a lot of like link bane aggression or even just straight up link. So maybe he's a little scared there.
Nice Snap getting a link for a drone there. Nice trade. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Snap is worried. He's expecting cheese, so then he plays really strong anti-cheese. But honestly, this is a huge defensive commitment here. 2 spines this early is a ton, And now he's behind a base. He's behind drones. He's about 5 drones behind, a base behind. This could snowball if he's not careful into a really huge lead. And he's getting a roach warren. But, looks like the speedlings from Snap will likely shut that down. We'll see. The Lings morphing from Quaterno will be able to push that back. Yeah, and I don't think he's not going to get the cancel. So, already Snap's dug himself in a hole here. Roach speed. He's going to have roaches early, but honestly, being a base behind, trying to make some 2 base push versus 3 base push rarely works. And if it does, you've got a very small window of time to make it work before they can just overpower you with the larva.
Yeah, and also the thing is, if you're gonna go for any kind of roach attack in the early game, it's going to take a long time for those roaches to come across the map. So like that tech isn't going to be as effective as it would be in the later stages.
Okay, we got some Banes coming out here. Getting some average hits for Snap. All in all, just throwing some supply away. Not the best situation for him. He's going to actually get some of his own Banes canceled, morphing them too aggressively. That's a mistake. It looks like actually 2 will finish, and you're going to get some decent detonations off. But honestly, in all these trades, Caterno is doing just fine. He's got more larvae up and quite a bit more drones as well.
Yeah, and also Cortona behind this got the +1 carapace, so every time his lings connect with banelings, it's not going to die straight away. And in a straight up ling fight, his lings are going to just win.
Snap just lost his base, no cancel. That really hurt him.
Yeah, and now he's kind of like stuck away from the rest of his base just because these banelings have been such a good zoning tool for the rest of the Snap slings.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that I haven't seen this from Snap a lot. You know, he does play defensive, does play reactive, but I mean, throwing down 2 spines just purely blind is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, and, I mean, like they did get rid of quite a few lings, but at this point, because of that, he put himself so far behind that those spine crawlers didn't matter in the end.
Yeah, I mean, he has an Overlord at the Nat of Love Caterno, so he can always just wait until he sees something pulling out there, then throw spines down. They will be up in time, so you know it's a it's not it's an investment as opposed to a precaution, but Love Caterno will take that game and Snap will fall. It's a bit unfortunate to see Snap lose like that. I'm a big fan of him. He's just done a great job at PsiX for a while and is a nice guy. So hopefully next week he's in the lineup again, and hoping to see him pull it back. He's got another ZVZ to play. I'm sure he was a little bit tilted about this one. Kind of, I think, psyched himself up a little bit too much, and wish him luck for the future.
Yeah, I definitely believe in him because I saw him yesterday in a clan war against 2 ZVZs against a Masters 3 Zerg, and in the first game he won pretty handily. Second game, I think he just teched up a little too hard, and he could have taken 2 straight ZVZs against a player who's quite a bit of MMR higher than him. So it just shows how powerful he can be.
Yeah, totally agree. Snap's good unit. So our final set of the night, our Masters player was Sippy Cup, and their player was Rex Required. So this was a really tough match for Sippy Cup because Rex Required was like a game below Masters 1. He's been in Masters 1 multiple times, and just a really tough map for him. I mean, as far as he was at an MMR disadvantage quite heavily.
I think, and the map being Redshift first, it always the psychological disadvantages. I think pros have a really tough time on this map. Terran, I think, is much more preferred just because of how you can abuse drop locations.
Yeah, I think it is definitely Terran favorite map. All right, in the bottom corner here, as the light pink Protoss, the Masters player for Sonic Aftermath, it's Sippy Cup.
And in the top left, in the green, representing BoRnGo, he is Rex Required.
I think I gotta blame myself a little bit for this match. I was playing too much Brood War with Sippy Cup this week, and I think taking his focus away. Yeah.
I don't know too much about Brood War, not really playing it that much, but I think I can say from what I've seen, it is quite different.
Yeah, it's fun. I like both games, and they're both really fun to watch, and it's fun that Sippy and I can play both those games together. So he'll crush me in StarCraft 2. I crush him I don't crush him. Very close in Brood War. So, but anyway, Sippy, he's a really good player. I was just, remembering, like, he's been in PsiX for such a long time. He played like season 16, 17 for us in the CTL, and just been going strong ever since. Kind of was on a hiatus for a bit, then emerged from his cocoon in maybe a month or two ago, and yeah, been strong for us. He's a good player, solid mechanics, and yeah, so it's going to be I think it's honestly a good matchup, even though Rex Required is really at the top of this bracket. Sippy as well is no slouch, so yeah, good match. So will we see that Cyclone style mech push for Rex? Definitely pretty popular.
And I think, based on like his factory setup with the Rex, looking like he wants to swap onto it. And Redshift also doesn't really have that long of a rush distance, so the Cyclones and Hellions can get across the map pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this is tough. I mean, if you don't scout this, the Cyclone push, it can be really hard to defend just straight up. And he's getting a Stargate, so this looks like, almost a repeat of the War Buff game where he went for a Stargate. Now, it's not a proxy Stargate, so I did the Reavers scout it? Let's see. It looks like the Reaver's going to scout it here, so that's a pretty big deal. And he might actually want to get okay, he's going to get an Oracle first anyways, and this will force some sort of anti-air out from Rex Required. Now, Rex Required did not go for that Cyclone push. He went for some Hellions first, which is still pretty strong here, and the natural for Sippy Cup is really undefended. Sippy Cup throwing down some gates now, going to create a wall. A good use here, and Rex Required, well, let's call him Rex for now, going to get a medevac, so it looks like he's going to go for a Hellion drop, and even has some options if he wanted to go as Banshee or something like that.
Yeah, I think he did losing those to a depth side, but he is going to pick off one of the Hellions so far, maybe get 2 or 3, and if he does that, then a lot of the drop potential, but losing that Oracle is actually so huge. He loses so much damage that he could get across the map because of that.
Ooh, I missed that. What's the anti-air for Rex?
There's a weather mine in the middle lands, yeah.
Okay, missed that. And yeah, he's going for Banshee as well with Cloak. And this is just a really smart play from Rex. He knows that he went Stargate, so his Robo is going to be delayed a little bit. He might not have that Observer out in time to deal with this Cloaked Banshee. This is already not looking too good for Sippy Cup.
Yeah, and with these Wither Mines and Hellions, he could just get so much. And it does pick up the Wither Mines, so that doesn't get too much. And Hellions do go down, so the aggression from the Terran doesn't get too much done. But at the same time, the Banshee follow-up could do a lot.
Ooh, these Phoenixes stopped chasing the medevac. They would have gotten that after its boost died. Now it might get to safety. But yeah, actually overall a decent defense from Sippy Cup there. Really good. That could have gone a lot worse for him. And these Phoenixes are hunting for units. They're going to get a Winter Mine. Nice. Getting some pickups.
And he also should be able to spot the Cloak, so he can react in some way, but I don't think he's got the exact reaction just yet. He's getting the shield battery, but by that time, a lot of probes are going to fall.
He's got a Forge up, so he's getting some... Oh, the Cloaked Banshee's already here, though, so the cannons are going to be so late. And he pretty much just has to wait until the Banshee runs out of energy here and then snipe it with the Phoenixes.
I think Rex knows that he's going to chase the pros, but once the Banshee gets close to running out of energy, he's probably going to put it away just so those Phoenixes don't snipe it.
Yeah, I would like to see the Phoenixes just camp on the Banshee, because they know that the Banshee will run out at some point and it does not shoot straight. So looks like one Banshee's going to run out of Cloak very shortly. There goes, it goes down, and there's some cannons up. So nicely defended by Sippy Cup.
I mean, he finds himself down so many works. Now it's 50, 60, 32, and because of that, his tech's going to be super delayed, and I think there's going to be quite a big two-base push coming from the Terran, which Sippy Cup's going to have a really tough time defending.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I think Sippy Cup could get a lot done with these Phoenixes. Now, he's getting some Widow Mines, so he does have to be careful of that. But the mineral lines are pretty undefended, except for that. Oh, the Widow Mine shots. Ouch.
Oh, and that last one, just to get rid of two of the last three, is just nothing is going right for Sippy Cup at this point.
Yeah, that was the one card Sippy had left to play, was getting some good Phoenix Rest. And honestly, except for the Widow Mines, thought he could because there wasn't a ton there. I mean, there was one turret, but Phoenixes can get quite a few SCVs with just one turret. But now that opportunity of attack for Sippy Cup is gone, and like you said earlier, the two-base push is going to be scary. Just a ton of Widow Mines, and Sippy Cup is barely any army here. It's 40 to 60 supply, and a lot of that is in Phoenixes, which is a harassment supply, not a straight army, and the probe count is really low as well.
Something that interesting that Rex is going for is that he's going for the +1 strip weapons. And I think that's because when he saw those Phoenixes, he wants to make sure that he can have like Vikings zone just to deal with those Phoenixes if they get too high of a count.
Yeah, it's true. Honestly, a couple Widow Mines now, there are going to be plenty to take care of these Phoenixes. They might get a... Okay. They might still be able to pick off a medevac or two, but honestly, the only thing they're going to be doing is biding him some time, which is, you know, is pretty important in of itself, but Sippy Cup just doesn't have enough.
And now he's going to lose the charges by themselves, and it's just so, I mean, where it's like, even if they get back connection, everything's going to die.
Rough game for Sippy Cup. The Widow Mine shots were clutch for Rex. So, tough week for us so far. And the master slot next week is going to be Salavanth. So, looking forward to seeing him play. And this is going to be the final game of tonight, everybody. So thanks for tuning in, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch the VOD. And we're going to go into Darkness Sanctuary. Different change of pace from Redshift, for sure.
Yeah, I think Sippy Cup being the loser, choosing this map, he wants to have more of that space so he can play his own style, whereas not allowing the Terran to do what he wants.
For sure. All right, from BoRnGo, the man who is up 1-0 in this best of 3, it's Rex. It's the Green Terran.
And the bottom left, in the pink, representing PsiX Aftermath, he is Sippy Cup.
So Stargate play is going to be good on this map again. And like you said, he's going to have breathing room to do it and still have a lot more space to expand and really utilize all that empty space with his Stargate play. If he chooses to go for that, he could also try to macro up, get a faster 3-base, and go into a more traditional PvT style Colossus or Charge Lot Archon. It's kind of interesting how even from, Heart of the Swarm to now, and Heart of the Swarm, pretty much all we saw was usually Colossus with Storm, mainly 90% of the time. But now it's almost like Charge-Lot Archon Immortal has become so standard, and now Terrans are getting mech more to deal with that.
Yeah, I think like the charge that's emerged definitely is part of the composition since they changed the charge upgrade. I think it was from 200 to 100, which I mean it makes a huge difference. And I
Hmm.
think they even inc they decreased the upgrade time. I can't actually remember.
Yeah, it's true, and we see a lot less Stalker Colossus. Really don't see that a ton anymore at the high level. And it's interesting, pretty much the players, or the strats that the players use at the high level really do trickle down in the StarCraft 2 scene to pretty much what these players are doing anyways. So the Korean meta really influences these guys' play. Because, of course, most of these guys watch GSL, they watch those games, and they learn the builds from them. Now, one thing we see here is, looks like we have a 1/1/1 out from Rex, which is interesting. He might be going for a drop. Wouldn't mind drop. Which we haven't seen a ton anymore since the Widowmine nerf. But it still is viable.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things where like yes, you can get rid of those wither mines after they shoot, but what happens if they shoot before you see them and then get rid of a lot of probes? And it still has the potential to do a lot of damage. Just the after effects aren't really as great as they were.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. It's more about getting that first hit off. Now, Sibicup sniping that Reaper is nice, although I think the Reaper saw that Phoenix. So that's going to be a good scouting information from him. And he's going Adept Phoenix, which is kind of a slightly more exotic build order we used to have. But Sibicup's supply block is actually pretty big. His Phoenix production was slowed there quite a bit. But Phoenix Adept is actually pretty good against this drop style that Rex might be going for. He just has to be really careful he doesn't lose the Phoenixes to the Widow Mines. And more barracks is being thrown down, so it looks like at a certain point Rex is going to want to transition into a more bio style. And we've got more Phoenixes coming out, being produced, and the third up from Sibicup. So this game is looking a lot better for Sibicup in terms of his macro.
So far, things are going his way, but he's still got to be really careful because he has been quite active with those Phoenixes across the map. And if they're across the map while Terran is doing the same, then there's not really that much that he has to defend besides the Adepts.
Yeah, we see some SCVs being picked off here. A nice small little pickup, and might get he's going to get a medevac here. That's big. So already some good utility here for Sibicup from these Phoenixes, and definitely delaying. He saw also that the starport with the tech lab was producing, so he knows that it's either Raven or Banshees, or suspects that at least.
Yeah, and I think when you see like, no cloak researching at this point, it's almost expected that's going to be that Raven. And I think playing Banshee 2 games in a row is quite risky just because it's very much a one-trick pony that if it's scouted in time and if it's expected, you can just shut it down before it does any damage.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the Phoenixes are still trying to get some damage done, and honestly, they could dive on something here. Ooh, okay, they're diving on the Cyclone here. Drops it before he loses a Phoenix. I think, honestly, that might have been a trade. He was willing to take a Phoenix for a Cyclone. But choosing to be safe there, not lose any Phoenixes. And he's still producing them. So, at this point, they've gotten some decent utility. They're giving him map presence and also keeping Rex penned into 2 bases while Sippy Cup can get established at his third with a pretty healthy probe count. And upgrades as well at a pretty good time. We've got +1 armor, +2 armor on the way, charge done. And although the one thing that you pointed out earlier, which is a true concern, was that Sippy Cup doesn't have a ton of standing army right now. He only has these charge lots and adepts. So he needs to start figuring out what he wants to get into, Colossus or just full-on charge lot, because these Phoenixes don't really do straight-up damage to the army of Terran.
Yeah, they're more there just to maybe chip away, pick up a few Marines, maybe pick up a couple mines, but other than that, they're more for even damage across the map while the Terran's going, because you can see he is keeping him back as much as possible. Like he's picking off these couple with the mines, he's forcing the Terran to be very careful with his units, and he could maybe even pick off with his Raven.
Ooh, he lost a one Phoenix there and almost lost another. Needs to be careful. Ooh, I think he's going to get the Raven. Gets the Raven. That's pretty huge, and starting to chip away at the Medivacs there. Although I don't like this move out from Phoenix, from Sippy Cup. I don't like that he's attacking in with these Zealots here. Although the Widowmine hits were pretty good. No, yeah.
I mean, he just lost so much that he's getting a 4th base at home. He doesn't need to move out. He can play the defender's role, especially on a map this big. You don't need to be that aggressive.
Yeah, I think that's a big blunder from Sippy Cup. Say that attack doesn't happen like that, then he waits. He might have been able to get another 2 rounds of Zealots warped in before the attack even happens. Wait for +2 armor to finish. And straight up charge lots really aren't that good if there's nothing behind it dealing some splash, whether it's a Storm or Colossus. So Sippy Cup doesn't really have a late game plan here, and I think he might straight up lose.
A lot of this bio is like heavily damaged, so the Sims will hurt, and he's only got 2 Medivacs, but a lot of energy on that. I just think that there's so much left for the Terran that it's going to be very difficult for Sippy Cup to hold.
Yeah, I think this game would have been very different if, say, Sippy Cup doesn't do that attacker with the Zealots, just continues to chip away at the Phoenixes, and gets Storm earlier. That would have been a much better choice for Sippy Cup after analyzing that position. And these last few Zealots getting cleaned up. GG, well played is called. And Rex required. We'll take the Masters at 2-0. All right, everybody. So that is the last game. We did fall 2-5 to BoRnGo. Tough week for us. We got some glimmers of hope, though. And, yeah, really well played by everybody. A big shout-out again to everyone who played. And good luck to the next lineup that's coming in. So, Lord, if you have any parting words, I will, before I close?
I think, obviously there's stuff to improve on, but it's always good to see with these casts that the players can see, exactly what they need, exactly where they went wrong, and I'm sure every single one of them is looking forward to improving on those things.
Exactly, yeah. And again, I want to say to encourage everybody, if you're not sure of something, reach out. We got some channels, there's a lot of people willing to help you out, even if it need to wait a little bit, but we've got a big roster, so let's utilize that, help each other, and pull it back for week 2, and hopefully we can get a win in. So I believe in you guys, the roster, and yeah, thanks for everyone doing the work to make this team win. So with that, I will sign off. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and next week I think I will not be around. I will be on a plane, and away from my PC, so I will not be able to cast. Maybe Lord or Snoopy, somebody can get a cast in. That will remain to be seen, but yeah, just had a good time casting this, and I will see you guys soon. All right, see ya. Take it easy, guys.